It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Time for another wonderful discussion topic. Time to keep it real, be real, and do real things. It's your man, Andy Brown, right here, keeping it live on the Real University. And the soulful, sweet sisters and aunties are here live to set this thing off. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, like, subscribe, click, join, and share the pages that you see right here as we dive into another wonderful topic. The lady of the hour, Miss Mia Ferguson, is in the building. How you doing, Mia?
I'm all right. How are you?
Fantastic. And your favorite HBCU auntie is joining us from afar, the lovely Tyon. How you doing, sister girl?
Hey, I'm hanging in there.
That's the girl.
Well, hang on in there like a string. Let's go on and break this topic off. Last week, we've been kicking y'all down with some wonderful discussions. Please understand, if you know anybody and shared any content with any type of roommate on a college campus or anywhere near a university, we're going to keep it real right here, today. Mia, tell me what are we doing today? Who is giving us the flavor for this particular topic to talk about?
Well, super shout out to College for All program. I'm totally in love with the information that they share for college students. It's just really simple. It's really basic. They don't complicate it, which is kind of like in alignment with how we are. We don't want to complicate things. We just want to make it real because we're the real. And so shout out to them for giving this wonderful little checklist on things to consider when searching for a roommate. Because boy, if we would have had this back when we were going through this process. And so let's kick this conversation off. How we want to start? We're going to start at the ones, the twos, or the tens.
Let's break it down from the bottom and work our way up.
From the bottom.
We're going to start from the bottom and get there. Shall we do it?
Shall we do it?
Rock and roll. For room number 10.
Number 10. Bam.
Folks, please understand lifestyle compatibility. All right. There's a big difference between the left side of the country, the right side of the country, the north and the south. So if you're not compatible growing up from Louisiana, South Louisiana, and you were born and raised in the boogie down Bronx and y'all got to get together, you have to understand there might be a little bit of a compatibility issue as far as your dialogue, you heard me, or making sure that you understand what I'm saying, son. Not that I'm really your child.
My man,
really understand that. You feel me?
You feel me? Right. That's just one. But let's talk about.
I was just going to say, let me add to the mix. It's not necessarily lifestyle compatibility, but it's also more so personality, because we can have two people from the boogie down that really understand, know from one another. And we always like to throw out where we from. And that makes us look tough. But everybody's from somewhere. But you could be from the same place, same upbringing. Note that you could even live in the same household, but for those that have siblings, and y'all could just view things totally different. So with that, I just want to say it's not necessarily lifestyle compatibility, but it's courtesy and consideration and understanding if you was raised right and those basics of being raised right. So
that brings us to number 9, that communication style. Tyon, give us a little bit about what that communication style means.
I mean, it's hard for me to comment on that because when you're 17 years old and you're away from school for the first time and you're living with somebody that you don't really know and you from where you from and your personality is the way that it is and I'm like this and I'm like that, to really sit down with another either 17-year-old or 18-year-old and have a hard body conversation on how we can best communicate with one another, let's be real. How is that conversation?
Some may lack maturity at that time.
There we go. Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yeah, some may lack maturity at that time. I think that Tyon makes a really good point because usually conversations about communication style don't even enter the matrix in that time frame of life. You don't usually get that some people until later, but that's a hard one to navigate because, like you said, you may say one word, it may mean another thing. I'm gonna be real basic. In at home, we might call it a shopping cart. In certain areas, they may call it a buggy. So you gonna be confused if you go shopping together for the first time, and they're like, "No, the buggy," and you like, "What the hell is the buggy?" And you realize what they're pointing to, because we go back to like second, third grade. It's like, oh, the carts. And then you start talking about those types of things, how it's different here versus there. So communication style can be different. You brought it up, Andy, with regards to the Brooklyn versus Louisiana. We could bring it from Chicago down to Florida. I mean, East Coast to West Coast. It could be a different thing. So just, be mindful of that.
Think about international students. That's
Yep.
a real big one, because I mean, especially in a lot of our HBCUs, you have a high propensity of having a roommate from a totally different country.
Absolutely.
So there's even cultural norms. But I want to take it back to and just give a story really quickly about communication style and kind of how it could have been inverted for me. I had an opportunity to meet my roommate before I came my freshman year. I hung out with her. We went to basketball games together, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, since it's one person that I already know, since I'm moving to a state that I pretty much know nobody in the first place, okay, she can be my roommate. I think it went down the second day. We actually went in the room because she took for granted that she lived closer to campus than I did, that I had more things, and I had more things that I was prepared with. Like I brought the refrigerator, I bought the television. And so I'm like, okay, I'm friendly enough to share, but it's like, well, can you put those things in the middle of the room? I'm like, these are my things. And also keep in mind your family situation. I was an only child. So this is my first experience sharing space with somebody full time.
That falls into lifestyle compatibility.
Yep. So then you're like, okay, I can share, but when I come in the room and I might want to watch Animaniacs and she's still on her third hour of the stories, it's my TV though.
Oh, you was that roommate?
Oh yeah, she was that roommate.
You were that.
It was the only child. She was the only child. It's mine. It's mine. It's my. Yeah, that's Yeah,
but also the fact of the matter that you didn't come to school prepared.
Or she might not have been able to afford one. You never know.
Oh, trust me, that was not an issue.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where, okay, like I'm sharing, but and Andy, I saw your moan and groan. It's the everyday thing. So if it's mine and you coming over, I feel like you house, speaking in Detroit, I feel like you trying to house my stuff. Like at least be like, oh, well, do you even like this? Or, can we compromise or something? And then the other thing that I did that she didn't like, but because we didn't understand communication, I used to do hair. Even though we had a hair salon in our dorm, it was more convenient for me just to do hair in the room because I had my big old caboodle thing there and blah, 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 blah. Well, she had a problem with that. But instead of talking to me about it, she went directly to the dorm director.
Okay. Communication.
Communication is a key.
And I guess that kind of leads us into the next one: shared interests and values.
Yes.
Similarly. Especially, bringing this down, if you're not really from the same area or grew up with similar backgrounds, your interests and values may be totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep that in mind, because it's not to say that you are just different people and you will never get along, but be open to realizing that there's more to what you can think and be able to think outside the circumference of your own awareness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, a topic that I think these are lessons and levels of maturity that you learn along the way through I think a lot of us who did attend college learned those things along the way. Some of us are still adults and they still act the same way. But as you integrate with people and understand that it's their way, doesn't have to be your way, and that's okay. Shared interests and values. It's easier to get along if you have them, but you can also get along if you don't have them too, and I think that was one of the things that I thought about when I read over this. I was like, yeah, it's good to have shared interests and value, but that doesn't mean my roommates need to all be members of the football team just because I play football.
Say that part again.
It doesn't mean that at all. My experience, there were 3 different age groups and we were all in different levels of college. So I was the oldest, and my 2 roommates we were stair steps. And so my experiences came before their experiences, but at that point in time, we all lived together. So we lived together in a time where things were a little different, but our interests were also different. One was a dancer, one was a smoker all day long, didn't really go to class, and I was like the one who got up, went to class, went to work, did the things, and so I was kind of in and out all the time. So again, that was my experience in that space, but it's always different for everybody else. I had a different opportunity than Tyann did, because Tyann, her freshman year, could pick when she was going to Lincoln. But Tyann, were you able to pick when you went to Morgan?
Woo, child.
No.
So actually I was I lucked up sophomore year when I moved in, and I had a totally compatible roommate. And so we were like, bet, even though we had some small quirks here and there, both of us were only children. Because we had some small quirks here or there, we're like, bet, okay, we're gonna be roommates next semester. Well, guess what happened to me? Well, it didn't happen to me. It happened to her for whatever reason. And I didn't find out later. She didn't come back.
Oh.
So when she didn't come back, and I always try to tell people, be prepared with housing and everything. So in that race to fill rooms and get housing together for the people that was waitlisted, I was thrown another person. And Mia, I think you were acquainted with that particular person. And come to find out, she was local, but she was never in the room. And at the time that she was in the room, she was never looking to bond or know one another. But then I had a situation where my senior year, I did again. I was trying to my second semester of junior year. I got another roommate, which was one of my prized possessions, saved my life when I was at Lincoln. She ended up being my roommate. Again, another wonderful experience, because even though we stayed on the same floor when we were at Lincoln. And like I said, there was an instance where she actually really saved my life. We were compatible because we knew each other from then. But she was also at that point where she was going home a lot. My senior year, though, I had no control over what happened. And here I am, a senior, and I ended up getting a freshman for a roommate. Yes, Andy. Yes, I ended up getting a freshman for a roommate. And mind you, my situation was that as long as my mother was financing my education, if my mother said you stay your black ass on campus, I had to stay my black ass on campus unless I wanted to foot the bill for residency. So again, it was a trade-off there. So again, having a freshman where it's not even about shared interests and values, it's about levels of maturity, gaps, and we were actually both from the Midwest. She was actually from Wisconsin, though. Detroit is a different animal when it comes to our classification as Midwest.
She was from Wisconsin.
She was from Wisconsin. And so again, there was an age gap, there was a maturity gap. And then, by the time I rose through the ranks and got a chance to become a senior at our illustrious Morgan State University, I was always out there. My personality spoke volumes. And that was one of the things that she couldn't necessarily handle about that, because everywhere I went, I knew somebody. Because I was a senior living on campus, a lot of my friends that were living off campus was like, hey, can I crash here? Yada, yada, yada. And so, it was just a different experience. And I tried really to mentor her, and she wasn't actually even, amenable to being mentored because she was an introvert. So when we go back to some of those things about personalities that come in, I'm extroverted. She's Midwest introverted. And it was like, even still, like, can you leave the room sometimes? Girl, get out there, go. Can I clip my toenails in peace sometimes?
Been there.
So per usual, I think we've skipped around to a couple of these other ones that are on this list. But the next one was study habits. Andy, go.
Man, look here. When you have people that can be an influence, whether that's positive or negative, that can change your whole diaspora of your college experience.
That's HBC.
Because let me tell you something. My first 4, maybe 5 weeks of school, I was square as a pool table and twice as green. Had no idea. I was so proper to go right to class, go right to practice, come right back to the room, and do that in order every day. I was very exhausted, but it was worth it. However, when my nasty roommate had told me those fatal words, say, bro, you don't have to go to class every day. I don't.
The lies you tell
changed my whole, my study habits changed. I didn't pick up that book as often, and simply because when you come up in different eras and different locations, and you're the way that your education has grown up, the math classes that I had already taken in high school, I was taking again at my freshman year. So my study habits, I didn't need the book, B's, A's. I know numbers. Eventually, it's money. That's how I was taught. So I didn't really have to study as often as I thought I should have.
Right.
And it will cost you more on the back end than it did, especially in the front, trying to be cool. This dude was just pink eye nasty on an everyday basis.
Pink eye nasty.
Yes.
Have you heard of pink eye nasty before?
Yeah, I have definitely heard it. I mean, listen, that's little dirt. That's little dirty status. He probably was a little dirty growing up. But this all goes back to what I'm saying, and I know Andy, your experience as male to male, and my experience is female to female, and Mia, your experience female to female as far as our living environments. Yeah, there's different levels of nastiness. I swear every time I went into a boys' residence hall, immediately when you got past the 3-inch threshold, it always smelled like feet. Same was true when I went to go pick my son up from his residence hall. But there's also things with girls, again, that consideration that don't pick up behind themselves or weren't required to pick up behind themselves, or have different, habits that, aren't customary to how you were raised. That's why I was like, there's got to be a threshold of at least how grandma taught you how to clean up the house every Saturday or Sunday.
Everybody didn't have that. No, everybody didn't have that. So I learned that. I learned that actually in college, because I was the kid that if I didn't make my bed, my mama didn't care if I was going to be late. And if late meant detention, then I was going to be late and I was going to be in detention, because she was going to make sure that I did certain things. One of them was getting up, making my bed, and leaving my room presentable before. So when I come back home, it looked presentable, right? Yeah. Well, my 2 roommates did not live by that code. My 2 roommates, you could see what one of them had throughout the weeks or month layered around in different places. And then it became a task for cleaning. So there were times when, my OCD would just kick in, and my OCD was bad. I just start cleaning up, because I'm definitely one of those people who my surroundings literally determines how I feel. I can't be around a lot of clutter. It throws me off. So to Tyan's point, not everybody grandmama was teaching them skills, because as we know, we've all experienced, we got a little dirt. You got your person. I had my people. That didn't happen. I remember calling my mother and saying, Mommy, thank you so much.
Did not do it.
Yes, I did. For making me clean up behind myself as I was a little kid. I really appreciated it. I was almost in my 20s.
Makes a difference.
I guess that kind of.
You want to say like, and I guess for me was because, I wasn't as anal about getting my bed made, because actually my philosophy on my bed being made was, why make it? Because when I come back here, I'm getting right back in it.
I can't sleep in my bed. I gotta have cool sheets.
But Mia, you saw my room even before all of this glam up stuff happened with this generation. My room looked very inviting and comfortable. It was, and actually, because I would even only just sleep in one corner of the bed, to make the bed was only just literally pulling the cover up and then, throwing the pillows over it. But like I said, sometimes I'm like, ooh, because after a long day of class, a long day of doing whatever I wanted to do, I just wanted to dive right in. But one of the things that I would think that would happen is that you don't want anybody judging you in those spaces, especially if you're in a dormitory, there's other rooms and people talking. Like, do you really want to hear things from the grapevine come back to you that you just nasty as hell?
I'm going to go for they don't know or care 4,000 Alex. Because if you didn't grow up that way, if you didn't go through that growing up, if it wasn't something that was pointed out to you, once again, speaking upon the things that you learn growing up, because those are the habits that you bring with you. Yeah. Some folks did not have those conversations because their mama wasn't cleaning. Showed. You know, so if your mama wasn't cleaning, then you ain't cleaning. And so to you, that's normal. And then you become the person, I mean, she always fussing because, you know, it's always neat over there. I mean, just because it's not neat, it's not that, you know, all that other mess. And it's like, okay. Yeah. Respecting others' personal space. Some people, this is the first time that they get their own personal space, so they don't know what to do with it.
Oh, I noticed that.
Yes.
I noticed
Somebody elaborate on that a little bit. That first time that somebody's having their own personal spaces. I can't speak on it because all my life, being an only child, especially even as a grown adult, I mean, really the first time I really had to share my space outside of college was with my son. And literally it's because I'm raising you, you got to follow certain rules. But somebody speak on for the first time what it's like, you know, sharing your space with somebody different. Like, I don't know what that is.
So well, Andy, you can go first.
I got 2 words for you. Frat house.
Oh, y'all had a frat house for real? Like a real one? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay, Morgan didn't have that during our time.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
What you're not finna do is wear my favorite polo to the club to give you a different look. That's what we're not gonna do.
I didn't know boys shared clothes.
Absolutely. Me neither.
Wow.
What you're not gonna do is walk up in this bathroom when I'm using it to brush your teeth, be like, "Hey, bro, what's happening?"
No. Okay. Yeah. See, that comes from that. Side check. You're like, what are we doing, friend? What's going on? Yeah. So mine was a little different because we had a house. Mm-hmm. So everybody had their own sector of the house, and then we had common areas. Yeah. The common area part was never a problem. But then, you know, you had your own bedroom, so you had your own privacy. So I didn't have to share my sleeping space with someone. I just had to share kitchen, a bathroom. 2 of us shared a bathroom upstairs. 1 of us lived downstairs. And then we had to share like the living room, dining room area, which was never a problem because, like I said, we all had different schedules. So sometimes we weren't even all home at the same time. But and we had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of laughter. You know, obviously the dramatizations that happened between having different age groups, different, you know, going on. Everybody had a boyfriend. Everybody had somebody dating. Everybody wanted to dictate how somebody did something. You know, those kinds of things. But other than that, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't a big problem.
Here's a question I have for you ladies. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You were in a house with more than 3 people?
No, we were. It was 3 of us in the house.
It was 3 of you. Okay.
If you add everybody's boyfriend, then it was 6. But I mean, you know, sometimes like my boyfriend traveled a lot because he wrestled. The other ones was there. She was there a lot, but my other roommate wasn't. At one point in time, my other roommate, how I met her, she was dating my cousin. So that wasn't even a problem. Yeah. So it was
were there at any point in time, you can share this now, the time has passed. Your degree is in your hand on your wall.
Oh, yeah.
Were there any listening parties ever established at night?
Any who?
Mia, you don't know what that means?
What does that mean?
You had no listening parties?
My back. Hey, that heart attack. Ain't nobody humping around.
Oh, I probably was the producer.
Okay.
But again,
there were no towels on the floor by the 2-inch gap under the door, so they can't hear you no more. Y'all ain't had those listening parties.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I need to speak on that.
I don't know what Andy's talking about. I'm saying it out loud.
Well, I can speak on it from living in a residence hall the entire time of my college career.
I don't know how you
do know that all of the residence halls had curfews. And so here I am, like in those, in those upperclassmen eras in my junior senior year, like I already knew that whomever I was messing with was pretty much older, and part of the time my high school, my college sweetheart was living out of town. So 9 times out of 10, if I was humping around, I had to make alternate plans or alternate arrangements. So 9 times out of 10, I was dating somebody or messing with somebody who was off campus. Or like even in my freshman year, like I said, you coordinate, and sometimes you end up in the male dorm, and that's how you pray you don't have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night with all them nasty ass dudes walking around.
There's no way. There's no way. I wanted to make sure that we go back to just really quick. I think I'm the only one that this might apply to, the financial considerations, because you had to pay bills in the frat house too.
Yes.
Oh wow.
You have to pay. It's not regulated by the school. It's off campus, if you will.
Oh, gotcha.
Very vividly watching said young frat brother watch them come by and turn off our lights.
Oh, wow.
Like, bro, what you doing? He about to cut our lights off, man. Well, you ain't pay the bill.
We didn't have
literally just watching him.
About the bills.
Literally watching. I came back, off campus, and I came to grab something in the room, and he was staring out the window watching this man cut our lights off,
and didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue what was going on.
Like, bro, what you know?
But did he know? But did he? But no. But did he know? Honestly, think about it. You're in college.
Yes.
How many times did you pay a gas and electric bill, or an electric bill, or a water bill? How many times? Because I know I had no clue. I was clueless.
Yeah. We paid that with whatever those checks were that came, like at the first of the year.
Refund checks.
I locked and hit that bad boy and paid 3 months up front with everybody. Here's
and
this money.
Still paying interest on that if you still owe student loans.
And that's
ain't nobody care about that now. Ain't nobody care about that back then now.
Yeah, but the bills were paid. That was taken care of.
Right.
But the brother just watched the lights get cut off, and we like, come on, man. Come on.
Well, I think now, so I had one of my interns last year. She bless her little heart. This girl wore the stress of the world on her chest, but I realized that she got that level of anxiety from her mother was the same way. But she had a roommate. She was graduating. The roommate was not clean. She was another person who worked for the same company that I worked for. She was not clean, but she also didn't pay the bills. So they didn't have that conversation. But think about it. You're coming to school. Most people at that point in time, and depending on where you're going to school, if they don't have housing available, because let's be clear, some of these schools overpromise and underdeliver, so you're not getting housing. You might be living in off-campus housing your freshman year, so you're coming out of your mama house into a place that you now have to go but you thought you were going to have housing, and now you're living in an apartment or something of that nature, and you have to remember to pay rent and utilities, and you got to buy groceries because you don't live on campus, and you got to eat. Some people have I've never been grocery shopping before.
That's
except for me and go pick up some milk from the grocery store for my mother when I could drive. But I didn't have to make a list and go grocery shopping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have to do that stuff when I was younger. So if you think about it that way, financial considerations, again, I think it's the reason why I like this list so much is because it's hitting on things that are real, that people don't think about as they enter into the college experience.
Absolutely.
Like I said,
I like it so much.
We had talked about this in a previous episode when we talked about whether or not, and having a real conversation with your child, whether or not they're ready to manage a household. Because if you are living off campus, you are managing a household on top of your studies.
Right. But my specific example was about how you're going to school. Like one of my kids, he was in my program last year. And he was going to Morehouse and he had housing. And guess what happened when he showed up for freshman orientation? He ain't have housing no more. So it wasn't even about a conversation of you being ready and what that looks like. It was thrown upon you and you had to figure it out.
Yeah.
So we
Pain.
didn't, yeah, like that. Some of these kids are really
Pain.
going through that experience. Like they're thinking that they have a roommate and a room assignment, and they show up to this school. What's that school down south, Jackson? What was it, Florida, Jackson State? Was that the
Jack
school
State,
there?
Mississippi.
No. I'm sorry. Was it FAMU last year? It was FAMU.
FAMU.
It was a couple of them, but FAMU. These kids showed up and they ain't have no housing.
I wonder if that really plays into the psyche of you in adulthood, because if you haven't mastered that yet, in
Yes.
your adolescent
Well,
years and you
remember,
get into your 20s and 30s to where you still ain't managing a checkbook and balancing your budget.
Yes.
But I actually remember, I mean, is that also a flaw in our educational system? Because I remember, and I will brag all day long on my Detroit Public Schools education, but I remember in 7th grade, I had an elective called life skills. We learned how to write checks.
Mm-hmm.
We learned how to balance budgets. We learned how to, really take into consideration what we would need to live the lifestyle that we would want to live. It was literally called life skills. Now, I know in my son's curriculum from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, I didn't see him take anything like that.
They took that kind of stuff out of schools a long time ago.
Yeah,
they don't.
But that's also my responsibility to say, as a parent, all right, let's get real here. These are going to be some of the things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to learn how to budget. You're going to have to learn how to do this. You're going to have to learn how to do that.
She's so cute.
But of course, at the same time, Andy, I think you just touched on it. At the moment, in Mia's scenario, at the moment this young freshman showed up, he's either 17 or 18 or maybe 19. He ain't an adult yet.
Nope. Nope.
And
mama,
so
when I interviewed him for this program, his mother literally answered every single question for him, to the point where I had to respectfully, Mom, let me show you where you can get something to drink. They can't take you across the street so you can have the burger experience, because you are interrupting this entire time. So, but Tanya, you're coming from a place of different training and experiences. I'm gonna say some of these kids I'm gonna say it again, some of these kids don't have somebody behind them having these conversations. I guess the reason why we're here doing this, because they don't have.
This is why I say it takes a village, and some of the people need to be amenable to somebody else helping your kid out or giving them other experiences.
Yep. And a lot of times in this space, they're learning those experiences when they're in school, because none of them could afford it. This is something that's brand new again. I'm still shocked and surprised regularly how often I hear people saying she's the first one from my family going to college. I'm still shocked. I'm so shocked about it, but I get it because I see what's happening, but it still shocks me. So no, you're right.
But even if, so let's put a quick spin on it. Even if that's the first person in the family to go to college, if that particular young lady or young man decided not to go to college, what would they be doing? Are they still going to be at home, or are they going to be out here in the workforce where they still have to get a part? They have to pay bills and things like that. So it's like college is a good transition and it helps you get there, but we can't lean on that as an excuse, because again, and I know, Mia, you often say that, just because a kid is 18, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily grown. And we also always agree that, college isn't for everybody. But basic life skills, basic what's next in my life is going to occur whether you go to college or not. So how do you prepare yourself? Parents,
you passed the 10th grade.
Exactly. Parents, are you preparing them for, let's call it, the next phase in their life?
So let's talk to the people who don't have parents. Let's talk to the people who don't have parents.
And so if you don't have parents, you got a village, grandma, auntie, social worker, somebody. Step in, and I think this is one of the reasons why we're always about community, because somebody's got to be able to tell you that, hey, you go. One of a necessity is an alarm clock. Why? Because you got to be able to get up to get wherever you need to be on time. Simple tips like that.
Great discussion topic.
I think that's the reason why we're here. So let's go on through our list, because I mean, I think we're showing more and more while we're here. So we got through the first part of the list. So the next one is conflict resolution skills. Another topic that most kids don't get when they're younger, because it's okay. It's okay in some spaces to pop off, and because it's whatever. Some people just don't say anything because they don't know how to deal with conflict.
The
Right?
shutdown.
They just shut down. Some people have learned, depend like me, because I stayed in detention so much because I was always trying to be Robin Hood, save everybody. I learned when to be quiet and when to speak up.
Or
But it's
there's
because
also
I stayed in trouble a lot when I was younger for doing that. And I also was encouraged to communicate by my family. But I had
Very
some
cool.
people that I was around when I was younger and going through my college and high school years, or high school and college years, that they just thought it was okay to be doing all the things, and all they did was fight. Well, okay, well,
you
that's
Mm.
not
left out
conflict
one
resolution
Mia,
either.
the
I'm
petty
sorry.
labelle. I said you left out one Mia, the petty labelle.
I don't know about pay the bill
Being
because I'm not,
petty.
I'm not petty. I'm not petty.
So literally within the conflict resolution, one of the ways that again you get back at whomever's doing you wrong within the room situation is being petty. And again, and I would be that one. You done ate up the whole box of waffles. So guess what? Guess who's not buying what? Because and the only person that buys waffles is me. So guess who's not buying waffles anymore?
Oh, y'all
Or
ain't gonna
since
eat.
you or since you ate up all my waffles, I'm gonna pour syrup in your cereal box. Because I have
What?
nothing to pour my cereal on your I have nothing to pour my syrup on because you ate up all my waffles.
Wait a minute. Why
Yeah,
not just put your name on the box?
I mean, you know.
Go old school with it. Put your name on the box.
Okay, so I put my name on the apparently did I have to put my name on the waffles that I bought, but when I opened up
Yeah,
the freezer, they were always gone?
yeah.
Or you weren't considerate enough to at least leave me one. Like
I
So
gotta
we
have
have
that
a
talk.
lack of conflict resolution skills that occurred. But like I said, this is what happens because we're younger and we're learning.
Yeah,
Some of
y'all
us
gotta talk.
keep these antics when we're younger, and some of us get rid of them as we get older. But I don't necessarily know if I would have poured syrup on someone's cereal.
Mm-mm.
they got the message.
So we're gonna go through living. So we're gonna go on to the next one, which is living preferences.
Yes, Lord. Because I tell you this, me growing up as an only,
Oh, you
uh,
were only two. Okay, got it.
yeah, the frat house wasn't for me. After
Okay,
a certain period of time, you know what? I can stay by myself, man. I figure it out.
got you. So both of you were
Yeah.
only okay. I was only for
I
10, but I
know
don't think
it's
I'm
my
only.
stain on the carpet. I'll vacuum that up. I know these are my clothes that need to be washed. I understand that this is my mess that I made. I'm gonna take care of that because I understand again my circumference of my awareness and I can live in my own box. Now, if I'm open enough to be able to share that and be brotherly and friendly and say, hey, you know what? I welcome that other person, that other atmosphere in my space. It's a learning process.
Mhm.
I had to be okay with that on my side before I could just stay with anybody because
Now,
not everybody watches and you will learn behaviors.
now, Tayon, did you ever want to live on your own when you were in college? Like by what year?
I'm
Hmm,
gonna say this.
it's a good question.
I'm gonna say this. I reaped the benefits of my money being for me. So when I worked, my whole check went to whatever I wanted, except, oh, no. Olinda's words were, I will pay for all 4 years of college expenses. If you want to stick a deodorant, I suggest if you don't want to be funky, you go out and get you a job. So
Mm,
I was only responsible for my personal things. And I enjoyed that because again, at that point in time, being young, I wasn't thrifty at all. I was in my, oh, I'm grown. I could buy anything that I want. I could have these types of experiences that I want because I've got my own money. But
mhm,
because I looked at and I knew that no matter what, my tuition fees, room and board were paid.
mhm,
So if the
Good question.
condition was to have that type of lifestyle, if the condition was you have to remain on campus, I made that sacrifice. I made it work. And then, but remember, once I graduated, I had maybe about 3 months before, no, 3 months before I came back and moved into my own apartment to support the first job that I got. So, I mean, literally, a couple months after graduation, I had my own apartment. And was I willing to have it? Yeah, I was pretty much, mature enough in that space. But quite honestly, what would I have been missing had I not lived, in a residence hall the first time? I mean, could I have, romped around and did more of the okey doke? Possibly. But again, if you got your love interest or whatever, or your humping buddy that has their own space and place, it's not an issue. I could, and definitely, I don't think that there would be certain luxuries that I was missing out on because I didn't have to pay bills. So think about it. If you're on your own, if you want to have the music on all night, you're paying for that now. There's an opportunity cost to all of that. I remember my best friend, she went to Hampton, and after a while she moved off campus. And y'all know, the kind of mentality at Hampton